Is this a good position
Yeah,
for me?
right there.
Is this
If you could stay right there, that would be perfect.
okay? So everybody can see everything perfectly.
Yeah, no, that's
great.
that's
okay,
a good.
I'll stay here.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Do you want to start the show?
I thought we would take a little pause.
Just
Let everyone
silence.
take it
Yeah.
Now let's go ahead and let's get
Okay.
started. All right.
Tell us
So,
what we're doing here.
Welcome to the Vision Gap. Another episode here this week. I'm Tony Zayas.
Andy Helko.
And this week, we're going to be talking, we're kind of in between our two series. So we wrapped up the brand strategy series. We did a recap of that 2 weeks ago, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
We did that. And today, we're going to talk about some trends.
Yeah, I think we figured we'd talk about kind of future trends, but then expand upon some of the things we touched on in brand strategy. But it just kind of takes it a little bit further in a little bit of a different direction.
Yeah.
Just as a segue, because it's Thanksgiving, and we just want to overstuff our audience with knowledge, is I think what we're trying to do, so that they spend the weekend hibernating because they just took so much in today.
So much knowledge, yeah.
You know?
And so I was doing research for prep for this, and I was looking at a number of different trends and things. And I think a lot of it, to me, is relevant to things we've talked about.
Yeah.
Personalization is one that you and I discussed. Kind of targeted, really getting targeted in our audiences.
Yeah.
So it really goes back to the brand stuff that, it's not new, right? I mean, I think this stuff, there are trends that are on the rise and things that companies, marketers are looking at and say, hey, we got to do better at this, or we're really going to get focused. But a lot of it goes back to some really foundational things.
Yeah, I totally agree. So you said you did some research. Just as an interesting thing for our audience, what's a favorite site or some of your favorite sites that you go and check out when you're looking at marketing topics, besides that Insivia.com that's got some pretty amazing stuff on it?
Well, there's a bunch of them. So like Search Engine Journal is one that I go to.
Good one.
There's a bunch. I have like an RSS feed that I go through, but then I like to go to like general sites like Forbes, that kind of aggregate
100%.
Business content and whatnot. How about you? What's some of your favorites?
I don't know. I just soak in knowledge from everywhere. If you go on like Flipboard or whatever and kind of subscribe through, there's some great stuff. But like you said, I mean, there's just so many different sites that I pull stuff from.
Time just naming like
I know
a few sources because I pull a lot.
Because everything's aggregated now, so I agree with you. But so we're gonna dive into a couple interesting things today. I threw together from some of our past seminars slides that I've talked through because I thought it would give some context. But this is really taking, I think, like you said, we've been talking about brand strategy for weeks, which is such an important thing to us, is how do you first create that foundation of what makes you different in the marketplace, and how do you articulate who you are, why you do business, and why people should work with you. And then today we're kind of taking that into some, I think real context of marketing. Now that you've developed a brand strategy, this I would almost call like a teaser into how we would develop a marketing strategy, which is a future series that we're going to do, but this is kind of like tiptoeing into the waters of that today.
Yeah, but it's that foundation, and now we're rolling it out into transition from the marketing the branding into the marketing.
Because I think that's what people ultimately want to do, is they want to go and drive leads and really attract people, bring them in and drive conversion. And that whole thing about brand strategy is just that core foundation. Yeah. But to our point, I think at the beginning of brand strategy was, if you don't do that right and you don't create that foundation, this stuff is going to be horrible, and it's just not going to be as effective as it could be. So that's important.
Cool. So what do we got here?
Yeah, so this is a slide that we use, and if you guys want, you're watching this show, you see the slide, but maybe it's not 100% clear, just fill out the contact form and say, hey, I want the slides from that show, not a big deal. But this is the revenue roadmap, and I'll step back a little bit. But the revenue roadmap is basically this concept that we've developed that really looks at the whole structure of marketing. Yeah. And so on your side of the field, we've got things like search optimization, networking, sponsorship, paid advertising, retargeting. That's how we reach prospects. Yeah. We're going out there and getting awareness. And what we do is typically drive that into converting leads and we've got website, microsite, and landing page. You know, that's one thing that people often get confused by is the difference.
Yeah.
You know, website, if I'm going out to a networking event and I hand out a card to somebody, they're going to maybe go to my website and just generically be seeing it. On the other side, with like search optimization, I might create a microsite. You know, a great example for us is if you've been to SaaS.coach, is a microsite very specifically about how you do marketing and growth for software companies. And so for search optimization, that's perfect. It's very targeted and it really ranks well. And then landing page is really tied to advertising. So if I do a paid advertising campaign on Google or LinkedIn, I might summon someone to a landing page or a squeeze page where you're narrowing them down to try and get them to take a direct conversion.
So why don't I just want to send someone to the home page of my website?
Yeah, well, and I guess I assume that everybody knows that, but at this point it's, you know, what you don't want to do is complicate someone's journey.
Sure.
You know, if we're going to spend money on advertising, you're spending dollars on pay-per-click. And trust me, 5 years ago I saw this mistake all the time. I hope today that doesn't happen, but I'm sure that it does. But people spending dollars on paid advertising and then sending someone to their homepage, you know, you're basically making them start their whole journey over again. You know, because I would hope that you're advertising specific, that you're not advertising just generically for your company, but you're doing it on some sort of micro topic. Like for us, if we were targeting web design or marketing or branding or even a specific industry like growth for software, we want to be targeting very specific, which we'll talk about in some of the later process here. But the last thing we want to do is send them to that homepage where they have to start that whole journey over again.
Yeah, it's almost like difference between giving someone a coupon for like a meal, like a specific, like, you know, a chicken sandwich or something, right? And then you either have the option of like sending them into like a food court, saying figure it out, or like turning them right to the counter where you can get that, right? It's like you're going to do a lot better going right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing in the past when people would set up paid advertising, they would send people to their homepage and you would watch on analytics that they just spent $5 to get someone to their site, and then that person has to figure out where do I go and what do I do, versus if we make it extremely targeted, we're shortening that journey. And hopefully, again, the whole point of having landing pages is that we have specific advertising and we're really narrowing down and we're not just putting out generic like, hey, this is kind of advertising, go to our website, figure it all out on your own.
Totally, yeah.
So the next piece of this is really within these, typically within any website you've got main conversions, things like forums and phone numbers, and then the other side is content, stuff we talk about a lot, ebooks and calculators and webinars and all of these different things, and we've even talked in some of our other shows about how you have multiple conversions at different levels of the buying cycle. And if you're interested in that, go check out that SaaS Coach site and some of the shows we've done there, because it's much more specific. The big thing that I talk about here is that, you know, the reason that content marketing became so popular is that 97% of people aren't ready to buy today. So they're not necessarily going to fill out your contact form or make a phone call. They're doing research. They're earlier in that buying cycle, and that's the majority of our visitors that are not ready to take action today. And so the question is, how do we actually capture those people and get them into our marketing funnel, get them into our marketing ecosystem, so that we can, you know, continue to nurture them, and then eventually they'll become a customer when they're ready. And so that's become the big thing, is content that we offer an ebook, we offer webinars, we offer other things that we're getting people into our funnel on a regular basis.
So what is when you're thinking about what to give away, what is behind that? Like, do I just make an ebook just for ebook's sake, or what's
well,
what
let's
I want
come
to
to that. You know, I think we're going to talk about that in a few seconds. So let's tease it. How do you come to what works? But that's the process. And then really this upper part here is about marketing automation. So you get somebody to sign up for an ebook. Now they're getting emails on a regular basis that are nurturing them. and then we're typically driving people back to the website and hopefully into a landing page, into a form, and they're converting and going into our CRM.
Yep.
And I just showed this as a high-level overview of the marketing system that you should have in place.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, if you're missing pieces, you're not doing microsites or landing pages, you don't have content for people that aren't ready to buy, you know, you're not doing marketing automation, maybe you're missing a CRM, maybe you're not doing some of the awareness channels, you've got holes in your bucket is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
You're always trying to fill your bucket and get more, but you've got these scenarios where if you're missing this stuff, you're just letting water pour out and nothing gets to the end. So this high-level roadmap is definitely really important.
Yeah, it's good. I love this illustration here. It kind of gets a good visual on how this stuff, importantly, and you did a seminar a couple months back on how this stuff all ties together, and that was really good content. Yeah.
Well, and that's the key, is that all these things, I mean, marketing needs to integrate. I think that's the challenge. Some people think that if they're not familiar with marketing, they say, you know, we really need search optimization, or we really need this. And the challenge today is that all of these things are so integrated, and just there's no way to really do it successfully if you're just kind of piecemealing stuff.
You got all those holes, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So let's kind of dig in a little bit further. You know, this is a simple one. If you can't read it, every step in the process is a chance to win or lose customers. So I really believe this. It's blaring behind me. I can see it. So it's like the sun behind us. I really do believe this. You know, so we're talking about the funnel, which I'm about to show, and we're talking about all these things in the marketing ecosystem. Here's the big thing that I think a lot of people don't think through, is that literally there are all these steps for someone to go from being a potential customer all the ways to being a customer, and at every stage we are either winning or losing them. So if they see an ad, they can either not click or they can click. That's winning or losing.
We're influencing one way or the other.
100%. You know, there's really not any gray area in this in many cases. You know, and then they get to the site, and do they scroll or not scroll? You know, do they click the back button or not? Do they fill out that form for a white paper? All of these steps through email marketing, advertising, everything that we do is a chance to win and lose customers. And that's where we've talked about A/B testing a couple times, is that helps us figure out why we might be winning or losing customers, whether it's A/B testing in ads or it's A/B testing in landing pages. It gives us a little bit more concrete information.
Absolutely.
But I really do believe that this needs to be the thought process in people's heads, is that it is really about every single piece is its own, you know, even though it's an ecosystem that all integrates, every step needs to be thought of, is this is my chance to win or lose customers, and have I done everything within that step to win as many as possible and move them to the next step.
So I think, just to go back to, if we're thinking about, you know, all the ways that people can come into your funnel, this is where brand and marketing just come together, because you might be using the right channels, right? To your audience is seeing the ads, they're doing the searches, you're showing up, but if your persona and your tone and your language it isn't on point, it's not attractive to your audience, they're either saying yes or they're saying no, and that's where that intersects. So a lot of times people think of brand and they don't really think of, you know, all the tracking and the sales and the numbers really tied to that. And I disagree with that. I think it's
the brand is that who, why, what, and that's what we use in advertising. I mean, and it's funny to me, we'll have clients that'll say, oh, we've been doing Facebook or LinkedIn for years. Well, it doesn't mean you're doing it right or effectively. And the simple thing is, like, you know, the difference with brand strategy, if we've gone back to what we did all these episodes and we said, here's our target market and here's what their pains are and here's why they buy, and this is what makes us so different in the marketplace, you know, and then we're putting advertising out there that appeals to their pain, but then pushes why we are so different in solving it, That is a completely different ad than just generically throwing something out there.
Yep.
So I totally agree with you that, I mean, what we've been talking about the last 12 episodes or whatever is so relevant to this piece is, are you winning or losing customers?
Yeah.
Weak brand strategy loses,
Yep.
strong brand strategy wins.
Yep.
So, good point. This is really a continuation of that revenue roadmap, and it's the funnel.
Yep.
And probably most people have heard of the funnel. That doesn't necessarily mean you know exactly what that is, but it's what we try and look at. And really, it's where you start at the top of awareness. You're reaching people, things like that search optimization and paid advertising, down to what I call engagement, where you're really connecting with them, things like the content, articles, and infographics.
Yep.
Next, into conversion. How do we get someone to take action? We're having them fill out a form for a white paper or a webinar or whatever it might be. Next is nurturing. So we really move someone after they've converted. They're either going into the sales process, but a lot of times in marketing, what we're looking at today is nurturing them, sending them follow-up emails that are automated, maybe direct mail that's automated as well, or remarketing, which is a whole nother fantastic topic, but being able to advertise to people that have gotten up to the engagement point.
Yep. So we know there's that level of interest.
That's
Why not
right.
continue to put our messages in front of them?
100%. And then closing, obviously, and upsell. A lot of people don't include closing and upsell in the funnel. I definitely do, because once we've got them through nurturing, we want to do things like lead scoring to figure out what are our best opportunities, presentations, collateral, and then pushing them into upsell, where you're talking about customer communications and customer experience. And really, at the end of the day, this is your funnel, not only to drive customers in, but then keep them coming back for more.
And even after you get them to buy, it's all about whether you're winning or losing still, right? That
100%.
battle to keep them. Are they going to stay with you? Are they going to continue to buy more, right? So that's happening all the time, and that's something that everyone needs to keep in mind.
But this is the funnel. This is kind of the high-level structure that we look at. And they say today that the journey is more complex, like the customer journey doesn't go straight through. I totally agree, but what it means is that someone might come in and search, but later they see an ad and they come back in, or maybe there's some other way. I mean, generally there's still this high level, are we just getting in front of them, to are we converting them, to are we engaging them and nurturing them. High level, this funnel makes a ton of sense. So what you were saying in the beginning, this whole piece about brand strategy. One of our episodes, if you guys go back and take a look, was about target markets and personas. Our big belief here, and one of the reasons that we really drive to create these target markets and personas, is that when you get to marketing, we really believe strongly in creating micro funnels, really targeted funnels. So that process we just talked about, from awareness down to closing, should be done as multiple micro funnels focused on those target audiences. And so what that might make sense, just to clarify on that. So if I'm, in Civia, we may have software companies as one of our main targets. We may have another one that's devices. We may have another that's something else. And so when we develop funnels and campaigns, they're not for all of these people. They're broken up into these target groups. And that's the magic, I think, of both the brand strategy and this whole philosophy behind marketing, is to create that narrow focus.
So it's when you first start looking at and examining what is your target audience, the funnels allow you to send your message to a relevant message that's very personalized to that audience, correct?
Wow, Tony. You didn't even know that I had any of this stuff.
I actually didn't know that you had this stuff.
And you pretty much segued that 100%. So personalization, a personalized experience at every step of the campaign. So that was the exact point. If I'm doing awareness and I'm doing search optimization, I'm writing articles for a very specific group because I can write articles that solve their pains or talk about their challenges. Or if I'm doing advertising, I'm doing it to a specific group. And again, if I'm really talking about their personalized needs, what is their pain? And it's different, if I'm selling to a device company versus a software company, they have different pains and challenges and ways that they think. And so my advertising is a ton more effective when I can be narrow and talk specifically to their needs. But the same thing then follows up at every stage. I talked about that process of we win and lose customers and all these steps. Well, the personalization piece, if I can show an ad to you that really talks to your specific pains and needs, then I can send you to a landing page where again it reinforces that and presents more offers that are very specific to it. And that's like a webinar and a white paper that are related to that pain that I advertise to. Then when they actually convert, I'm sending them emails that follow up on the same topic. That's the power. And so that's why what we can do is in the brand strategy, we look at taking and prioritizing target markets, because what we want to do is say, okay, we're really going to go after manufacturing. And so we're going to create a whole funnel that's just for our services for manufacturing. And now we're going to come back and we're going to create advertising that really fits those pains of the persona. Then we're going to create offers like webinars and white papers that again fit that. And it's a very narrow funnel. And it fixes the mistake that most people do in marketing, is they're too generalized. And what happens is when you get generalized like that and you're really not talking to the specific pains of your highest priority audience, then what you're doing is really diluting that, and the chances of someone clicking on that ad or downloading that white paper or signing up for that webinar or following up on the email that gets sent to them is significantly lower, because you haven't done that process of making it extremely personalized and specific to that target audience.
So it's funny because listening to all this stuff all makes sense, and I can't imagine that it worked any worse in the past. But when you think about trends, and I think what's important now to be thinking about this, I think marketers are at a point where the maturity just of kind of all the platforms and the fact that everyone is, people who are your audience, they're seeing so many messages in so many different formats. Everyone is overwhelmed with information and ads that you no longer can just get by just pushing out generalized messages. Because all of your competition is starting to do this stuff. And so either you do it more precisely and better, or it's going to be painful, right? So,
well, and the other term people might know is segmenting. It's really about segmenting and creating specific campaigns towards those segments. I think the biggest challenge for most companies, marketers aside, is that they're so interested and they don't want to lose opportunities. So they want to make sure that it's generic enough that it doesn't turn anybody away. And then the other side is they just don't have the time and resources to think from a perspective of, we've got to do much more narrow campaigns and multiple of them. That's a lot harder of a process to execute. And so I think that what most companies do is they end up doing that generic because their first gut reaction is, oh man, if I make this ad specific or this landing page specific, it's going to turn away that type of business. Well, that's the wrong thought process. And then tie it with the fact that it takes more effort to actually execute with segmented campaigns. That's another turnoff. But doesn't the stuff that works best always take a little bit more effort, and it's a little bit more risky and
extra mile, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing is, I think for a lot of businesses and marketers and owners, is getting past that like gut risk factor of like, we're going to miss opportunities. But the thing is, if you narrow, like we've said in brand strategy, you'll be so much more effective, like significantly more effective when you take this approach. And that's what people tend to be missing. And if we go back to brand strategy, if we define those personas and what really makes us different in the marketplace, imagine doing that and then we're very specific. Man, I mean, it's just crazy to me when you think about companies putting out diluted, generic campaigns and they're missing maybe some of the stuff in the revenue roadmap, where they're not doing landing pages or they're not doing good content marketing. Like, talk about waste of money and time in marketing, versus if you follow these ideas and you create a funnel and you do it very narrow and you talk to the pains and challenges of the audience and you offer them messages that are specific to their needs and wants. Talk about the effectiveness of that comparatively. And so I do think for people that want to drive lead generation, this thought process of you can't just go out and do marketing. You really have to be strategic about it. And so
you have the right message to attract the leads, especially as, again, more and more companies are offering the download and the webinar and all those things, so that offer has to be compelling. And it's not just the compelling nature of the sale, but every step is becoming more competitive. Because everyone has that opportunity to target now.
Well, talk about compelling is, I mean, we always say value is one of the most important things. I've heard people come and say no one downloads white papers, and even competitors of ours will tell our clients, like, oh, no one does that. They don't, that doesn't happen. That's bull. I mean, I see it every day with some of our clients and with our own stuff. And the reality is, people don't download crap. If you get there and you get to a page and that white paper is not specific to you and your pains and challenges, and its headline and description don't sound that interesting or don't sound like they're giving away good information, and the rest of your site doesn't look good and doesn't portray like you're experts, of course no one's going to download it.
Well, now that you say that, I think no one does download white papers.
No.
People go and obtain the value that's in the white paper.
That's a great way to say it.
They're not going and saying, hey, I would like to consume a white paper today, right? They're saying, what is the challenge that I'm faced with that this thing is offering to help me solve, right? And that's what people want. So
people convert on solutions to problems.
And it's that value, it goes back to value.
And it could be, we talk about it, any type of content. It can be webinar, guidebook, all types of things people will convert on. They just have to be presented with something that truly solves their problem or their issue or gives them the information they need. And then it has to be articulated in the title and description in a way that they do feel like, oh, wow, this is worth giving away my information. And I do. I mean, I go back. I think it's BS that conversions can't happen. I think it's the firms that haven't figured out this methodology and they're still doing generic stuff and they're not getting results. But we see it every day that people, when you're very micro and focused and you're appealing to an audience, to something that really relates to them, you can get conversions all the time.
But you got to do your homework to that point, that everything that's done well takes more time and effort. When you know the audience and their pains, then you can address that, right? So
it's so easy to do things that aren't effective. Right?
Sure.
You can throw out marketing. I think companies, they sit in a room and they say, what white paper can we come up with? And, instead of it being part of a focus campaign where they're saying, we're reaching this audience, this is what their challenges are, this is, how we're going to get them to a page and blah, blah, blah. Instead, it's just, let's sit in a room and come up with a random idea, put that on our website and hope that people want it. I mean, it sounds insane when you say it.
They like the white papers.
Right, exactly. So no, I love your idea of people convert on value and solutions to their pains. And if you think of it that way, and you can really do that well and articulate why you're going to solve their pain, I do think you can drive conversions. So this personalization thing is the key concept of having micro funnels, is that everything is very specific to the person that's looking at it. And just to that point, so personas, we have a whole episode on developing personas in the brand strategy. We're not going to go into that depth, but really this whole process is about defining a very specific audience. A target market might be a campaign, but then to develop these materials that we just talked about, we have to determine who is that person that we're trying to reach and know more about them. Like, what are their drivers and motivations? What are their pains and challenges? What are their buying factors? What's their age? What's their mentality? These things matter a lot in developing that great content that people are going to convert on. You know, if I know these factors about someone, I can choose the right channels to target, and then I can have messages and offers that are actually appealing and actually deliver value so that they convert.
Yeah.
So personas are a smart thing to do. And then really I just wanted to kind of show how this goes is, you know, when we look at it, so we talked about the funnel: awareness, engagement, conversion, nurturing. So what you look at is, let's say we picked our target audience, and up here we say, okay, this is, you know, software as a service companies, and that's for us. Well, then the campaign is very specific. Every stage is specific to them. We're doing paid advertising, just the software companies. We're retargeting on LinkedIn and Google for people that visited our site to related topics to software. We're doing social selling where we're sending LinkedIn messages to people that are marketing managers of software companies. Then we come into engagement, and when we create articles, they're about software. When we create case studies for validation, same thing. Micro animations, landing pages for SEO, into conversion, that it needs to be conversions that fit. And so basically you build out this funnel with the different tactics that you're doing, but this funnel has to be very specific on a certain audience or campaign that you're running, and not just be generic. So this is kind of the build out of those stages to show paid advertising, direct, organic, thought leadership, validation, inspiration, targeted SEO, a primary destination of a squeeze page, and then what we've talked about in some of our other shows: low commitment, medium commitment, high commitment conversions, and then our nurturing over here that matches our commitments. And so really this is that funnel that's built out for a very specific audience.
Taking out the mystery out of it, right? This is just kind of laid out.
Gives it away. And then just, I think this is the last thing that I had to kind of add on to this is individualization. We were talking about trends, and I think this is where we're headed, is that, you know, the awesome thing about technology is that we can get more and more specific automatically. And so things like on a website, there's personalization, so that if someone comes in from a very specific ad to your to a landing page, and then they come back to your homepage, you can change the messaging automatically based off a cookie, knowing that that's that type of audience, and maybe you move content around or change messages. You know, same thing across everything. It's getting easier and easier to narrow from being personalized to a group to being individualized for individual people.
Which is pretty crazy, because you think, you know, just how fast all this is accelerating through technology.
Right.
20 years ago, everything was pretty much just a mass message.
100%.
Just for, and that was a lot easier, right? Because you just figured out a very general persona and hoped, you know, the campaign resonated.
Right.
Now we have the ability to get so granular. It's pretty cool. I mean, I think it's awesome.
And this goes farther into that concept is what's effective is when we talk to people as individual as possible. And if it's about a target market or a target group, we're getting more narrow at the point that you can get very individualized. I mean, that's just more effective. It's the idea of, you know, if you're a salesperson and you've got 50 people in a room and you're trying to sell your services, that's going to be hard to resonate with everybody. And maybe you're going to hope to get one person. But imagine if you're a salesperson and you got to speak to every person individually, you know, or what we talked about with the target groups is that you're able to say, okay, all the, you know, manufacturers go over here. I'm going to have a 10-minute conversation with you. All of the technology companies go over here. I'm going to have a 10-minute conversation with you. You know, that's kind of the thing. If you want a simple way to create an analogy, is the last thing that you want to be is a salesperson in front of a room of 50 people broadcasting, and it's kind of the spray and pray approach, and that is just not effective. And so we're really talking about a strategy built off this branding that we talked about that narrows that down and allows you to have group conversations or even individual conversations become highly more effective. And now those 50 people that are broken up or individualized, you're going to have tons more conversion in the entire process.
So let me just throw this out there. I know we're about to wrap up, but another trend that I saw high on the list was AI and machine learning. How do you think that plays into all of this, what we're already talking about?
Yeah, I mean, well, machine learning, AI, it's really about computers being able to leverage data and make decisions real time or look into things. And so I think to that individualization point is that we can start building systems that get more and more specific, that really learn, that are adaptive. And so even though we start developing a funnel and a process, we can use technology that can adjust our messages, adjust our tactics real time based on what it's learning about our audience.
Based on that feedback from the behaviors and whatnot.
I mean, today it's very manual. We, put out a campaign and you run some A/B tests, and maybe you put out another campaign, you test it with AI, and as these systems start integrating, some of this stuff will happen automatically real time and adjust to what it's seeing in results. And it's really cool. That being said, just like content marketing automation, I think a lot of marketing automation companies moved away from the idea of strategy and developing a great brand and really understanding the target audience and having clear and articulate messages and developing micro funnels. I think those companies, they got a new tool, the marketing companies that got into that, and they lost some of the traditional stuff that still matters. And that's the thing with AI, is that it's a great technology and it's going to help us, but it is not a substitute for the strategic side of things. And really understanding who do you want to go after, why do they care, what makes you different, what are the ways that we execute this, how do we understand what's effective and not. That is not going to go away.
So the good news that's coming in 2020 is that human beings are still going to behave like human beings.
Yeah, no kidding. I agree. Cool. Well, I think this was a decent show, a nice segue into our next series that we're going to be doing. We've got the holidays coming up, so we may have one or two more of these trend shows, just kind of talking about some connected ideas, and then we're going to come back and be doing a full series on a whole different topic. So it should be pretty fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so if you haven't, you're watching the show, go download that brand strategy guidebook that we have. It's very simple, actually. It's nice and clean like this, where it walks you through some concepts, but it really gives you some in-depth information. I really think it can help a lot of companies out with kind of thinking about how they differentiate themselves.
A lot of companies use this time of the year as we roll into the holidays.
That's right.
Some people, it's super busy, but others, it's usually one or the other. If you're slowing down and have December, you have some time to start to think about how am I going to attack the next year, 2020. Grab the guidebook, and you can really do some crazy things, powerful things, by just implementing some of those steps, following the process, and create some new micro funnels and target the right audiences.
So soon we're going to have Tony dressed up as Santa as well, since it is going to the holiday season. Look forward to that. He looks great in a white beard, and I think we had a great time. And check out our future episodes. Go back and check out all the old ones, and I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend.
We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. It's announcer voice. Are we done? Is this blooper time?
We're out of here.
It's still live.
Okay.
Do you think we should stop it?
Should probably hit the button.
Which button?
Say something stupid.
No, you don't want me to say something stupid. Look in there. What do you see?
I don't know. He's still in there? Can they hear us?
I doubt it. These people can't hear us.